Hi, I'm Beck. Thank you for being here. Last video we were discussing Ostara and the beginning of spring. Now we are marking spring at its peak and the coming of summer with the pagan holiday of Beltane, which is celebrated on the 1st of May. So this ancient tradition is obviously stuck around because many people celebrate May Day here in the UK. I believe it is a bank holiday. But I love really delving into the old ways and finding out where these traditions have their roots. Now, I have to say, spring in England is taking a little while to arrive properly. We have had a few gorgeous sunny days, but for the last few weeks, temperatures haven't really hit over 12 degrees Celsius. So nevertheless, here we are with the Beltane vlog. Let's get into it. So before diving into the traditions of Beltane and the associated celebrations, I wanted to share a little bit about paganism and the Wheel of the Year in general. I think the term pagan can be misunderstood or maybe even judged sometimes. So I'm going to read out a definition from Google. Pagans believe that nature is sacred and that the natural cycles of birth, growth and death observed in the world around us carry profoundly spiritual meanings. Human beings are seen as part of nature, along with other animals, trees, stones, plants and everything else that is of this earth. Pagans worship the divine in many different forms through feminine as well as masculine imagery and also as without gender. So that is their primary beliefs, the main essence of what it means to be pagan. I just thought some of you might find that interesting. We touched on this last time, but the holidays celebrated by pagans or followers of the Wheel of the Year are very, very old. They may have differed somewhat from how modern pagans practice today or in more recent history, but the premise was very much the same, which is following the natural cycles of the earth and living in harmony with the seasons. So one of the main and seemingly obvious reasons that our ancestors would have had to live in harmony with the land is for survival. So our ancestors would have had to have deep knowledge of the earth and nature in order to survive. So to know when to plant food, when to harvest the food, when and where to move cattle. It just feels like paganism is very much like a natural or holistic religion. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but with it being like everything they worshipped were the very things that kept them alive. And I think that's one of the reasons we are disconnected from nature these days, because we don't need to worry about our survival anymore. Like most of us in the Western world anyway, we are safe, we have our basic needs met, we've got a roof over our head, we know we've got an abundance of food from the supermarket or a delivery at the click of a button. We don't have to know the lands in order to survive. So there's definitely benefits to living now, don't get me wrong, like life was hard back then. But yeah, there's a level of disconnect that we have now, which could be / is massively contributing to the mental health epidemic that we see all around us. And yeah, it's just a really interesting perspective that this research brought up for me. Okay, let's dive into some of the traditional Beltane rituals. As I mentioned, Beltane is celebrated on the 1st of May. So the clocks have changed, they've gone forward or back. I always forget. Anyway, we have more light. So that gives us like general feeling of positivity and excitement. Beltane roughly translates to bright fire, and one of the most important rituals at this time would be lighting the bonfire. So fire is very much like something that brings people together. It's seen as a purifier, and yeah, people would gather and dance around the fire, jump over it, just have a jolly good time. Yeah, this was also a time just for gathering in general, so celebrating life together in community. The marking of spring means people can start to come together to celebrate and feast. Maypole and dancing was also a big tradition, and we still see this practice today. I actually remember as a child going to Maypole dancing practice and taking part in a presentation. How adorable is that? Beltane and Samhain, which is the opposite festival on the Wheel of the Year, were once seen as the most important festivals for pastoral reasons. So the cattle would be taken to higher ground away from the villages in Beltane, and then they would be brought back down closer to the villages in Samhain. So there was a lot of practicality around their rituals for sure. There is very much still an essence of fertility at this time, where it was just springing out in Ostara. Fertility is now at its peak with creativity and passion. An old tradition called a maying was where you would take your lover to the woods for the day, the whole day. I absolutely love this. And if you don't have a lover, take yourself to the woods or a friend. That's what I'll be doing. Apparently it's also a popular time of the year for pagans to get married or have a hand fasting ceremony, which I love. And it's just a time in general for reclaiming sexual energy and celebrating sensuality. So there's a little bit on the historical background of Beltane and the traditional rituals. How am I celebrating this year, I hear you ask? Okay, so any ideas that we've been nurturing and starting to birth, this is the time for them to be seen, shared and put into the light. It's a lot about confidence and taking action. Yeah, so is there something that you've been wanting to share? For me, it's sharing this video and putting myself out there, which does feel slightly easier at this time of the year because it's aligned. It's still edgy, don't get me wrong. I'm also very much in the stage of birthing a baby business right now. So it feels like all the seeds that I've been planting over the last few months are coming into fruition with my offerings starting to take place. As mentioned, I'm making more of an effort to gather with my friends, to get myself out there after a long hibernation in isolation. On Beltane evening, I'm going to have a fire in my garden. I've got a portable fire, and that will also include some sort of ritual. It's always nice to do a burning ritual when you've got a fire. So yeah, I'll just see how I feel on the day. I'm watching my seeds grow that I planted back in Ostara and just generally enjoying the blooming nature in my garden and all around, all the different colours and flowers that are starting to show. One thing I'm also loving is watching the birds become more active. I love watching them have like their mating rituals. It fills my heart with joy. There's so many wood pigeons around where I live, and I've really noticed stuff that they do that I've never noticed before. Like they like bow to each other. It's very, very cute. There's so many ways that you can celebrate. They're just a few little examples of things that I'll be doing. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video and you learned something, or maybe it's given you a couple of ideas for how you can honour this time of year. Please let me know if you enjoyed it. It would mean the absolute world. Sending you all Beltane blessings, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you for being here.